What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. And yes, I am alive after the 24-hour movie marathon. And this is my epilogue for the 24-hour movie marathon. I will be ranking every movie that I watched, all 10 of them from the movie marathon. If you have not seen that video, make sure you go ahead and go watch that video first, as I will be spoiling what movies I did watch for the marathon. I will link that video right down below. Here it is. This is my ranking. Now, I'm going to do this ranking a little differently. There's one movie on here that technically can't be ranked because I fell asleep through pretty much all of the film, and that is Barry Lyndon. This movie, I guess I'm putting at number 10, although I haven't really even given it the credit or the due in terms of the attention that the movie deserves. So I did fall asleep during this movie. I thought it was very pretentious, very boring. I would really have to go back and try to watch it, which I will eventually at some point in time. But from a movie marathon standpoint, this movie just fell a little short because of the bloated runtime, the time of the day that I watched it early in the morning, and the fact that I just could not keep my eyes open throughout this entire film. That is why this movie stands at number 10. Number 9 goes to Raging Bull. Martin Scorsese, I love you. You are an incredible director. You're an auteur. But let me tell you, I do not like Raging Bull. This is a movie that I think has a lot of good elements in terms of the technical performances from this film. I think the cinematography is fantastic. I think what Martin Scorsese is able to do as a director is absolutely incredible and breathtaking. And it's very earned, the fact that Robert De Niro won his Oscar for his role in this film. And Joe Pesci is great as well. What's not to love? Well, the problem with this movie is I hate Robert De Niro's character. Actually, in fact, I hate pretty much every character in this movie. There is not one character that is redeeming, because this movie really just stuffs in a lot of domestic violence and spousal dispute and things that are just kind of front and heavy loaded in this film. I understand the term of what Raging Bull is and why this character is so hot-headed, but the issue that I take with it is that this is a boxing movie. I should be getting behind this character, rooting for this character, but honestly, I could care less if this character ended up thriving and winning and becoming a champion, or if the character falls and loses, because I hate this character so much. Number 8, Klaus, the animated feature. My issue with Klaus is that this movie was so hyped up for me that I was expecting this movie to really nail it in terms of emotion, in terms of delivery. But I felt like this movie was just okay. It was good, but that was it. It never really crossed that threshold that I felt like other people had hyped up. And to me, this is a movie that it doesn't really make sense for this movie to be nominated for Best Animated Feature. But if you look at the Oscars and the fact that they have so much disrespect for the animated category, movies like Boss Baby and movies that don't even deserve to even be mentioned in awards consideration get nominated all the time. So I guess it makes sense that this movie would be nominated. Although lately we've been getting some fantastic animated features, this movie just unfortunately to me missed the mark. It was a good movie. I had some enjoyment out of this film, but it just felt so base level that it never truly escalated into much more, which was a little bit of a shame for me. Number 7, Get Shorty. This movie was the first movie of the marathon. And let me just say this, as a first movie, it actually did very well. It kept me attentive the entire time. I never felt bored of this movie. I was never tired. I thought that this movie was a good film. It was good. There's really not anything bad to say. The only thing is that this movie just never truly felt like it was going to be anything higher than what it was. It's just like that fun, entertaining film that has some interesting things in it, but you've seen this movie before. It is a gangster film layered with Hollywood insight and the entertainment business. And so that's really it, but this is a good movie to start a movie marathon. If you want a good movie to watch anytime during a movie marathon, I think that this one is good for what it is, because it really mixes comedy, it mixes that gangster, that kind of almost noir type of film all into one package. And John Travolta is very entertaining in this film. I really liked him. I liked him and Rene Russo's chemistry a lot throughout the entire film, but I just never felt like this movie was anything more than what it was trying to be, and that's okay. It did everything it needed to do. It was entertaining, it was fun, and that's it. That's all the film needed to do, and it completed that. Number 6, Ocean's 11. This was the pick by my good friend Nate. Nate, thank you so much for this pick. I gotta say, this movie is very entertaining. I really enjoyed every facet of this film because it's a crime thriller. There's like thrilling moments in this film. There's action in this film. Not the type of fighting type of action, but just the intensity of what is happening. The fact that they basically have to pull off this heist that almost seems insurmountable and impossible. That's what makes this movie, to me, stand out. That's what kept me awake throughout the entire runtime of this film, because this is a movie essentially centered around this one heist job, but the characters are so layered. Every single one of them has their own issues. Every single one of them has their own strengths and their own utilities that they can bring to this team. And I loved watching George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Matt Damon. I really thought that the cast was top notch. I always felt like the thrill of the heist was always there. And this movie kept me entertained. That's all I wanted out of this film, and it did a great job of waking me up after such a dreadful trudge of a film, which was Barry Lyndon. Number 5, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This was a fantastic comedy to watch during a movie marathon. Again, these are all first-time watches. I had never seen this film. I had heard so many amazing things about the 1975 classic that is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I heard it was really funny, it was very poignant, and it had a lot of layers in terms of the comedy. It almost seemed a lot like The Office, that smart humor, that kind of playing on jokes that to a generic person, it wouldn't be nearly as funny on the spot. And so there were moments where I felt like the humor extremely worked, and then there were moments where I felt like the humor was a little dull. But the movie never takes itself seriously. It has fun with this concept of a spoof film, and it does this King Arthur legend, Holy Grail, correct. It really has a little bit more of the mythology behind the Holy Grail than you would ever think in a Monty Python film. But I really enjoyed the humor. Some things worked for me, some things didn't work for me. Overall, though, this was a very entertaining film that I was very pleased to have be a part of my movie marathon. Number 4 goes to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This foreign film was action-packed. This is top-notch action. It is a delight to the eye. Some of the wiring that they do in this film and the stunts that they pull off is absolutely incredible. The scope of the landscape is fantastic. It brings you into this Asian culture that is so rich, that is so beautiful, and I absolutely enjoyed this film. I felt like the movie got too heavy on the action side, whereas some of the character development was a little bit lost in translation. But I love that this movie is a layered action film. It's not just an action movie with great wiring and stunt work. This is a movie that truly has emotional depth, emotional connection in between certain characters, where some characters see themselves through the eyes of the other character. And there's redeeming qualities about certain characters in this film. And I just gotta say, I love seeing Michelle Yeoh on camera. She is a beautiful woman. I thought she was absolutely incredible in this film. I thought that really this whole cast was so dynamic and so diverse in different ways. They all brought a different personality to the film that you can totally see through their characters. You could see the way that these characters were able to interact with one another in such a deep and profound way that almost seems too simple because of how deep and profound it is. It's an absolute delight of a movie to watch, and it is a fantastic action movie. One of the best action movies I've probably ever seen in my entire life. Number 3 goes to Braveheart. This is a movie that is epic in every sense of the word. I want to applaud Mel Gibson. He does a fantastic job, not only from an acting, but a directing standpoint. This is a movie that has been played out a bunch of times. We've seen this story of kind of these rebels going against the system, going against society. But this movie does something so different, and it takes that concept and doesn't ever make them truly feel like the underdog. Because a lot of these movies, when it comes to rebellion and when it comes to fighting for a cause, they always seem like they're going to achieve that goal, but they're going to do it as underdogs, as these people. In no possible, plausible way would they ever be able to pull this off. But this film is very different, because what they end up doing is they almost flip that concept on its head and makes you believe that they are going to conquer throughout the entirety of the film. I'm not going to say whether or not they do it, but that belief, that kind of ride that you go on with these characters and you're taking their side, is absolutely enjoyable. And the entire time you're so invested in the story and the fact that all these characters are trying to get revenge in some form or another. Now, the thing about this movie is that the ending completely surprised me. I did not think that they were going to go that way. And at first, I didn't necessarily like it. But after thinking about it a little bit more, I actually really love it, because it plays off of something that you don't see coming. And then not only that, but it's an ending that truly fits the entirety of the film. I'm not going to say whether justice was served or not, because to me it wasn't, but I think that what they end up doing is so important in terms of getting their message across. Now, the only issue that I have with Braveheart is that I felt like this movie was a bit too long. This movie really could have been a half hour shorter, and it still would have gotten its point across. So I think that the only issue is that it did not need to be 3 hours in length. It could have used a shorter runtime. There are a couple of spots in this movie where it just gets a little dry. Number 2 goes to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This movie is almost perfect. That's it. That's all I need to say. This is a fantastic movie. Jack Nicholson, his best performance by far. I know everyone's going to say, but The Shining's the best. And guess what? I'm going to tell you right now that The Shining's not the best performance, because One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is what won him his Oscar. And oh my gosh, you got to see his performance in this movie. Do you not like The Shining? What's wrong with you? No. I love The Shining. I understand what you're saying, but have you watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? No. Just watch it. Just watch it. This film not only won Jack Nicholson an Oscar, but 2 other actors in this movie. Louise Fletcher, Brad Dourif. All 3 of them won their Oscars. This movie won Best Picture. This film is as close to perfect as humanly possible. I don't want to really say anything else. Watch this movie. It is absolutely freaking incredible. And number 1, if I said One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was absolutely incredible and it's nearly a perfect film, how could it not be number 1? Well, number 1 is Nightcrawler. This is the movie that capped off my 24-hour movie marathon. It's the last film I watched, and I saved the best for last. And I'm only going to say this. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is right here. Nightcrawler is like right here. It's so close, and it could flip-flop on any other given day. But what Nightcrawler does is so chilling, and it's so tense that I almost completely fell out of my chair in a lot of different scenes. This was the last movie that I watched at the marathon. The last movie. I was so tired. I was so ready for bed. I was drained and absolutely exhausted. And I put on Nightcrawler, and my eyes, I don't even think I blinked once. I don't remember blinking in this movie, because this movie was one of my favorite movies to watch during any experience. It's so weird. This and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest are the 2 movies that I have to watch again before I go about saying that these are 2 of my all-time favorite films. They're not going to be my favorite films of all time. Sorry, those spots are reserved for Princess Bride and Empire Strikes Back. But Nightcrawler is absolutely brilliant. It takes a concept that really, who in society knew what Nightcrawlers actually were, what their profession entails. Look at this movie and you realize what these people do. That's almost like tense in itself, and it's so haunting. But then you get the performance by Jake Gyllenhaal, who is so unhinged throughout this entire movie. You just feel every single breath that this guy takes, he's getting closer and closer and deeper into madness. And I freaking loved it. I have been a Jake Gyllenhaal fan forever, but this movie absolutely changed my mind about Jake Gyllenhaal. And let me say this to the Academy Awards. Yeah, you see Jake Gyllenhaal over here? He's really trying. He's stepping up, okay? This is a guy who should have been nominated easily for an Academy Award. Easily. I'm not saying he should have won, but he should have been nominated. It's a tragedy, in my opinion, that this guy was not nominated for an Academy Award for this performance. This is his best performance by far. I don't see anything coming close to this performance. I mean, this is the performance of a lifetime for him. And you bought in to this character of Louis Bloom. You bought in to everything that he was doing as a businessman and just kind of being this person who almost lets fame and lets notoriety get to his head. I loved it. I freaking love this movie. Anyway, guys, that is it. I know this video was a little bit long, but that is my ranking of all 10 films that I watched during my 24-hour movie marathon with my good friend Nate. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this ranking? Let me know down below in the comment section of this video. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And if you are new and this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel down below by hitting that subscribe button. It is free to join, and it is an incredible community that we continue to build each and every day, and I love all the support that you guys give me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in my next video. Stay healthy.